In this audiobook, we'll be diving deep into the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, a game-changing guide that teaches you how to stop trying to control others and start living for yourself. We'll cover all 18 chapters of this book, giving you deep insights and real-life examples to help you understand exactly how to apply these lessons in your own life. Whether it's letting go of judgment, setting boundaries, or reclaiming your peace, you'll walk away with practical tools that truly work. So sit back, relax, and let's begin this powerful journey together. Chapter 1. Stop wasting your life on things you can't control. If you've ever felt like you're drowning in stress, constantly falling behind, or stuck in a loop of trying to please everyone around you, this chapter was written for you. Mel Robbins opens the Let Them theory with a hard-hitting truth. The problem isn't you. It's the power you're unknowingly handing over to other people. You may not even realize you're doing it, but every time you try to control how others see you, feel about you, or behave toward you, you're slowly chipping away at your own peace of mind. Mel is brutally honest about her own experience. She shares how she spent years bending herself into a pretzel, trying to meet other people's expectations. She thought that if she just worked a little harder, said the right things, kept the peace, or made everyone happy, then maybe, just maybe, she'd feel good about herself. But the outcome was always the same. She felt more exhausted, more disconnected, and more invisible than ever before. And that's the trap so many of us fall into. You try to manage your partner's disappointment, your co-workers' approval, your parents' judgments, or your friends' silence. You think, if I just do this right, maybe they won't be upset. Maybe they'll finally see me, maybe they'll stay. But no matter what you do, someone is still unhappy. Someone still criticizes you. Someone still doesn't get it. And meanwhile, you're the one left feeling like you're never enough. Mel's message is clear. It doesn't have to be this way. This chapter is about reclaiming your power, your energy, and your focus. It's about learning to stop wasting your life trying to control things that are not yours to control, especially other people's opinions, reactions, moods, or behavior. And that's where the Let Them theory comes in. Mel introduces the most life-changing phrase she's ever discovered: let them. Just 2 words, but they shift everything. Let them be disappointed. Let them have their opinions. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them leave. When you stop spending your life trying to fix how other people feel, you finally start living your own. To bring this concept to life, Mel gives us examples that are painfully relatable. Imagine this. You're at work and your colleague walks in with an attitude. In the past, you might try to cheer them up, avoid them, or spiral into thoughts like, what did I do wrong? But now, let them. Let them be grumpy. Let them be short with you. You don't need to take it personally. You focus on your work. You stay in your lane. You protect your energy. Or take the example of a family member, maybe your dad, who constantly comments on your life choices. Your job, your partner, your parenting, he always has something to say. In the past, this would ruin your whole day. You'd argue, you'd second-guess yourself, but now, let him. Let him have his outdated opinions. Let him be critical. You don't need to argue or explain. His beliefs do not define your life. This is the first step toward emotional freedom. Because here's what Mel wants you to know. People hold no power over you unless you give it to them. The way they act, what they say, how they feel, that's on them. Your happiness, that's on you. And when you learn to stop reacting to everyone else's behavior, you get your time, peace, and mental clarity back. Mel explains this shift using an ice cube metaphor that hits hard. Time with the people you love is like a melting ice cube. It's slowly disappearing. You can't stop the melting, you can't freeze the moment forever. The only thing you can do is be fully present while you have it. But how often do we ruin those fleeting, beautiful moments because we're worked up about something that doesn't even matter? One of the most powerful stories Mel shares in this chapter comes from a moment with her teenage son, Oakley, on the day of his high school prom. The whole lead-up was chaotic. He didn't plan anything, no dinner reservations, no clear idea of what was happening. Everything was last minute, typical teenage boy behavior. Mel was frustrated, anxious, trying to manage every little detail. She even bought a corsage for his date, who had already made her own. She found herself trying to control the night instead of just letting it unfold. And then her daughter Kendall turned to her and said something that stopped her in her tracks. "Mom, if Oakley and his friends want to go to a taco bar for pre-prom, let them. Let them get soaked in the rain. Let them ruin their sneakers. It's their prom, not yours." That sentence hit like a lightning bolt. Mel realized she was making herself miserable trying to engineer the perfect night, trying to manage outcomes that didn't belong to her. And the moment she let go, everything got better. She handed Oakley $40 for tacos, wished him a great prom, and watched him run out the door into the rain. And she smiled. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't planned, but it was beautiful. That moment became a turning point. She started using "let them" in everyday life. The bakery sold out of bagels? Let them. Oakley's annoyed about curfew? Let him. The neighbor's dog won't stop barking? Let it. These weren't just annoyances. They were training grounds for peace. Every time she said "let them," she found herself detaching from drama. She stopped being triggered, and she got her brain space back. The lesson is this: you can't stop the rain, but you can stop standing in it. You can't prevent people from being who they are, but you can stop letting it ruin your mood, your day, or your life. By the end of this chapter, Mel invites readers to take a radical but necessary step. Stop making other people your problem. You're not responsible for how they feel, how they act, or how they perceive you. You're only responsible for what you do with your own time and energy. And that's the core of this chapter. Let them do what they're going to do. And you? Let you choose peace. Chapter 2. Let them plus. Let me. In Chapter 1, Mel Robbins introduced us to the core idea of "let them," a mindset shift that invites us to stop controlling what's out of our hands and reclaim our peace. But in Chapter 2, she completes the equation by adding the second half of the framework, "let me." Together, these two phrases, "let them" and "let me," form a balanced approach to relationships, boundaries, and self-worth. Mel makes it clear, let them is about freedom, but let me is about responsibility and empowerment. If you only say "let them" and do nothing else, you risk disconnecting from your own agency. You might avoid discomfort, but you won't grow. That's why "let me" matters. It's the choice to act from a place of confidence and clarity, especially when things get hard. She introduces this concept with a vulnerable story, one that might feel uncomfortably familiar to many of us. Mel was on a girls' trip with 6 of her closest friends, or so she thought. On the final day of the trip, one of the women pulled her aside and shared that a few of the others were hurt by something Mel had said on the first night. They'd apparently been talking about it all weekend, just not to Mel. No one gave her a chance to explain or clarify. They just gossiped and stewed. Instantly, Mel was flooded with shame, self-doubt, and confusion. Her inner critic went wild. What did I say? Why didn't they just tell me? What's wrong with me? She wanted to fix it. She wanted to make it right. She wanted to be included again. But as she processed the pain, she stumbled into a new way of thinking. She realized something deeply important. The issue wasn't just that they were talking behind her back. It was that she was centering their feelings above her own. She had to step back and ask, what do I need right now? And the answer was this: let them talk. Let them gossip. Let them misunderstand. But then came the second part. Let me choose how to respond. Let me decide what kind of friends I want. Let me take responsibility for the people I keep in my life. This was the birth of the full theory. Let them plus let me. Mel breaks it down this way. Let them is your mental filter. It creates space. It detaches you from the knee-jerk emotional reaction that wants to defend, explain, or fix things. But let me is your action step. It's where you decide what to do with that space. Will you keep chasing people who don't value you? Or will you walk towards something healthier? She gives us this mantra: let them judge. Let me rise above. Let them ignore. Let me focus. Let them doubt. Let me believe. The power of let me is that it shifts the conversation inward. You stop asking, why are they doing this? And start asking, what do I need right now? That's where the healing begins. Mel also shares that when you live only in let them, you risk becoming passive, detached, or even bitter. You might start avoiding conflict at the expense of your own voice. That's not what this theory is about. The let them theory isn't about silence, it's about choosing when and how to speak. It's not about letting people walk all over you. It's about knowing when to disengage and when to act from grounded clarity, not emotional chaos. And that's why let me matters so much. It's the commitment to take ownership over your energy, your choices, and your future. She walks us through a practical breakdown of how this works. Imagine you're upset because someone didn't invite you to something. Maybe it was a dinner party, a group text, A reunion. Your first instinct might be to ask, why didn't they include me? But with let them, you say, let them have their event. Let them gather without me. And then with let me, you ask, let me see how I really feel. Let me decide if these are people I want to keep investing in. Let me create the kinds of friendships I want in my life. Or let's say your boss praises a coworker for an idea that was originally yours. You feel overlooked and frustrated. Instead of spiraling into resentment or gossip, try this. Let them get the credit. Let me use this as fuel to speak up next time. Let me advocate for myself in the meeting next week. Let me build a relationship with a mentor. Let me take this frustration and do something productive with it. The truth is, let me is your call to action. It's where you stop waiting for other people to fix it, notice you, or come around, and you start creating the life you actually want. Another example Mel gives is her own marriage. She talks about times when she'd feel frustrated with her husband, Chris. Maybe he'd forget something she asked him to do or respond with less enthusiasm than she hoped for. Instead of launching into criticism, she began using the let them plus let me mindset. Let him be forgetful. Let him have his own stress. Then let me communicate what I need more clearly. Let me make a decision about what I will tolerate. Let me bring compassion instead of anger. This shift from external focus to internal responsibility is what transforms relationships. It doesn't make other people better. It makes you better at choosing who and what you give your time and heart to. Mel also emphasizes that let me is not about isolation. It's not about cutting everyone off. It's about connection. Just starting that connection with yourself first. Because when you know yourself, respect yourself, and show up for yourself, you naturally start attracting people who do the same. Toward the end of the chapter, Mel challenges you with a bold question. What would your life look like if you stopped managing everyone else and started managing your own energy? Let that sink in. The let them theory is not passive acceptance. It's emotional mastery. It's the power to pause before reacting. To say let them and not spiral. And then to say let me and choose your next move with courage and clarity. This isn't easy work, it takes practice. You will still get triggered. You will still want to explain yourself, to fix things, to please people. But with every let them and every let me, you build a new kind of muscle. The muscle of self-trust. By the end of this chapter, Mel wants you to feel this. You don't need to control everyone around you to feel in control of your life. You just need to take full responsibility for you. Let them. Let me. That's the beginning of everything. Chapter 3. Managing stress. Let them annoy you. Let's talk about something we all deal with, stress. Not the life or death kind, but the kind that piles up over time like 100 little paper cuts. That coworker who's always negative. The neighbor who lets their dog bark for hours. The teenager slamming doors in the house. The long checkout line when you're already running late. You might tell yourself these are minor annoyances, but over time they chip away at your peace, your patience, and your energy. In Chapter 3, Mel Robbins gives us a new way to think about these daily stressors. Her message is simple but transformative. You don't need to fix, control, or internalize every irritating thing that happens. Just let them. Let them be annoying. Let them be rude. Let them be slow. Let them not care. Because here's the truth. Most of your stress doesn't come from what's happening. It comes from your resistance to it. It's not the traffic jam. It's your belief that it shouldn't be happening. It's not the person who interrupts you. It's the story you tell yourself about being disrespected. And when you resist, argue, or react to every little thing, you hand your peace over, one tiny annoyance at a time. Mel shares a hilarious and deeply relatable story that illustrates this perfectly. One morning, she was in her kitchen, coffee in hand, to-do list in her head, already in a rush, and her mom started reading headlines out loud from the news. Did you hear what's happening with the banks? There's a shortage of lettuce in California. And don't even get me started on the weather in the Midwest. It was a non-stop stream of worry and chaos. And Mel felt her blood pressure rising. Why is she doing this? Doesn't she see I'm busy? She wanted to snap. But then she remembered. Let her. Let her be who she is. Let her share what she thinks matters. That's her way of connecting. And just like that, the tension melted. Instead of reacting, she paused, smiled, and let it go. That's the power of let them in action. When you release your need to control how others behave, you automatically reduce your stress level. You reclaim your emotional bandwidth, and you stop taking things personally that were never about you in the first place. But Mel doesn't just leave it there. She dives into why this works on a psychological level. It turns out that your brain has a built-in alarm system called the amygdala. It's designed to keep you safe by scanning for threats. But the modern brain often misinterprets minor irritations, like being cut off in traffic, as actual threats. That's why your heart races, your jaw clenches, and your stress spikes. The solution? Don't let your amygdala run the show. Let them cut you off. Let them forget to say thank you. Let them not text back. You're still safe. You're still in control. You're still okay. Mel makes an important distinction here. Letting someone be annoying doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise. You're choosing peace over pettiness. You're choosing energy over ego. You're picking your battles, and most of them aren't even worth a second thought. Let's look at a few examples she offers, and maybe you'll recognize yourself in one of them. Example 1. The coworker who never says hello. Every morning you walk in and say, "Good morning," to the same coworker. And every morning they ignore you. It used to drive you crazy. You'd stew at your desk and question whether you did something wrong. Now, let them. Let them be awkward, rude, or introverted. Example 2. The group chat that's blowing up at 11 p.m. Your phone buzzes nonstop. People are sharing memes, gossip, and drama. Your sleep suffers. Your mind races. What if you just let them? Let them chat. Let them overshare. And you? Let yourself put the phone on Do Not Disturb and protect your sleep. Example 3. The person who chews too loudly at dinner. Yes, it's annoying. But will confronting them make your dinner more enjoyable? Probably not. Let them chew. Let them eat how they eat. And maybe sit a little farther away next time. The truth is, when you adopt this mindset, you'll realize how many things used to ruin your day that no longer matter. And it feels incredibly freeing. You stop walking around emotionally bruised by life. You stop seeing every inconvenience as a personal attack. Mel also introduces a powerful mantra to use in these moments. This is not about me. That one sentence is a shield. When someone's rude, inconsiderate, or snappy, it's rarely about you. Maybe they're tired, maybe they're overwhelmed, maybe they're just not very self-aware. But you don't need to match their energy. You can observe without absorbing. And that's how you win. She also encourages us to use these moments as practice grounds for peace. Every time someone annoys you, think of it as emotional weightlifting. You're building the muscle of tolerance, of detachment, of self-mastery. You're choosing to live in a state of ease instead of chaos. One story Mel shares is about her husband, Chris, and how they've grown together using this mindset. Chris has a habit of leaving his coffee mug on the bathroom sink. Every morning, and every morning it used to drive Mel nuts. She'd pick it up, roll her eyes, and feel like he was inconsiderate, until she flipped the script. Now she walks in, sees the mug, and thinks, let him have this small quirk. Let this be the thing I don't fight about today. And just like that, what was once a trigger becomes a tender little reminder. This is the person I chose. Coffee mug and all. That's what happens when you stop needing everything to be perfect and start appreciating things as they are. Mel also challenges us to examine our identity around stress. Some people wear stress like a badge of honor. I'm just so busy. I've got so much going on. Everyone's annoying me today. But what if you made peace your identity instead? What if your energy became calm, grounded, and unfazed? Not because life is easy, but because you choose not to be reactive. That's what Let Them teaches you. You stop personalizing everything. You stop overreacting to minor things. You start living with a greater sense of calm. And as this chapter winds down, Mel gives us a final nudge. You don't need to react to everything you feel. Just because something annoys you doesn't mean you have to fix it. Just because someone acts out doesn't mean you have to correct them. You are allowed to let things slide, to laugh it off, to take a deep breath and move on. Because the truth is, life will always be full of little annoyances. But your inner world? That's yours to protect. Let them do what they do. And you, let yourself breathe, detach, and focus on what actually matters. Chapter 4. Work stress. Let them hold you back. If you've ever felt like you're giving everything at work and still being overlooked, underappreciated, or even sabotaged, this chapter is going to hit home. Mel Robbins doesn't sugarcoat the truth. Workplace stress can feel all-consuming. But much of that stress doesn't actually come from the work itself. It comes from our emotional attachment to how others behave, how we're perceived, and how we think things should go. In Chapter 4, Mel makes a powerful point. You can't control how your boss leads, how your team works, or how others treat you, but you can control how you show up. The let them theory at work helps you stop wasting your energy on things you can't fix and start focusing on your own growth, boundaries, and goals. She starts with a scenario we've all been in. You've been busting your butt on a project. You've put in the hours, stayed late, gone above and beyond, the client is thrilled, the team is proud. And then, your manager swoops in and takes the credit. Infuriating, right? Now here's what most of us would do. Vent to a friend, replay the situation in our head 50 times, fantasize about quitting dramatically, or quietly stew in resentment for weeks. But what if instead of spiraling, you paused and said, let them. Let them take the credit. Let them manage poorly. Let them show you who they are. And then, let me. Let me update my resume. Let me start networking. Let me ask for the promotion I've earned. Let me make a plan for something better. This is the essence of what Mel teaches here. Stop giving your workplace stress a starring role in your story. You don't have to tolerate being overlooked. But you also don't have to spend your emotional energy trying to make broken systems fair. You can disengage from the drama while still remaining highly intentional about your next move. She's clear. The people you work with might never change. The culture might stay toxic. Recognition might never come. But that doesn't mean you're stuck. You always have a choice. You can choose your next step. And it starts with these two mantras. Let them. Let me. Mel also dives deep into another kind of workplace stress. People-pleasing. You say yes to everything, you volunteer for extra tasks, you cover for lazy coworkers. You rewrite emails 15 times to avoid sounding too direct. You basically run yourself into the ground hoping someone notices how hard you're working. And when they don't, you feel crushed, invisible, used. Mel's advice is direct. Stop managing everyone's emotions at work. Let them be disappointed when you say no. Let them think you're not a team player if you set a boundary. Let them roll their eyes when you leave on time. Because the truth is, respect doesn't come from over-functioning. It comes from being honest, consistent, and firm. And if you're constantly trying to earn your worth through work, you'll burn out fast. One of the most powerful examples in this chapter comes from a woman named Claire. She worked in marketing at a fast-paced agency and was known as the yes girl. Need a last-minute pitch deck? Claire's got it. Client having a meltdown? Claire will handle it. Team slacking on deadlines? Claire will work late. And while Claire was doing everything to hold the team together, she wasn't getting promoted. In fact, she was being overlooked again and again. She finally hit a breaking point. She read the let them theory, started applying the let them mindset, and things began to shift. When a coworker dumped a task on her plate last minute, she replied with, "Unfortunately, I won't be able to take this on right now. Let's discuss a better system next week." Was it uncomfortable? Yes. Did people get annoyed? Probably. But did she feel like she was finally respecting herself? Absolutely. Within 6 months, Claire had documented her contributions, updated her resume, and interviewed with 3 companies who actually valued boundaries and clear communication. She landed a higher-paying job and the confidence that she never needed to be anyone's doormat again. Mel shares this story to emphasize that let them isn't passive, it's proactive. It's not about quitting in silence or giving up. It's about deciding what you will and will not tolerate, and then taking steps to move towards something better. She also addresses a common fear. What if letting go makes me look like I don't care? Mel's answer? Let them think that. You can still care deeply about your work and also have boundaries. You can be ambitious and still say no. You can strive for excellence without sacrificing your peace. People who misinterpret your boundaries don't belong in your circle of influence. And that applies to the office just as much as it does in your personal life. Toward the end of the chapter, Mel walks us through a let them inventory for work. It's a powerful tool. You sit down and ask, what am I taking personally that isn't mine? Where am I overfunctioning? Who do I keep trying to please instead of simply doing my job? What can I let them do? And what can I let me do to take back control? You might realize that you've been wasting hours stressing about someone else's laziness. Let them be lazy. You do your job well and leave it at that. You might realize you're holding resentment for a team that doesn't thank you. Let them forget. You start thanking yourself. You build your own recognition system. And then there's the final piece Mel teaches in this chapter. You don't need permission to move on. If your job is no longer aligned with your values, you don't have to wait for the final straw. You can let them keep doing business their way and let you go find a better fit. This chapter is a wake-up call. You don't owe your employer your mental health. You owe yourself the chance to grow, to rest, to shine, and sometimes that means moving on. Let them underappreciate you. Let them ignore your ideas. Let them keep the status quo. And you? Let you rise anyway. Let you build something better. Let you stop shrinking just to survive. Because once you stop letting other people's behavior define your worth, you become unstoppable. Chapter 5. Let them think bad thoughts about you. Have you ever stayed up late obsessing about what someone might think of you? Replaying a conversation in your head? Rewriting a text 5 times? Wondering if someone's mad, judging you, or saying something behind your back? If so, this chapter will set you free. Mel Robbins opens chapter 5 with a reality check. People are going to think what they want about you, no matter what you do. You can be kind, respectful, responsible, and generous, and someone will still misunderstand you, still dislike you, still gossip about you. And once you realize that, you stop performing. You stop bending. You stop exhausting yourself for a version of approval that never actually arrives. The core message of this chapter? Let them think what they want. It sounds simple, but if you've spent your life trying to be liked, it can feel terrifying. Because most of us were raised to please, to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to stay quiet. So when someone thinks poorly of us, or worse, says it out loud, it triggers our deepest fears. I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm doing life wrong. But Mel flips that fear on its head. She says, let them judge, let them misunderstand, let them gossip, let them be wrong about you. Because here's the truth, their thoughts do not change your reality.
Your truth remains true even if no one else does.
One of the most honest examples Mel shares in this chapter is how she used to stress over what family members thought about her choices. Her job, her parenting style, her decision to launch a podcast or self-publish a book. Every time she made a move, she wondered who would roll their eyes or whisper behind her back. And then one day, she decided she was done. Done shrinking to avoid judgment. Done explaining herself. Done editing her personality to keep the peace. That's when she adopted the mantra, let them think what they want. I've got a life to build. And that's the invitation for all of us. You don't need to justify your goals. You don't need to convince people to like you. You don't need to argue your worth. Let them think you're too ambitious, too loud, too quiet, too much, too weird, too whatever. Because their thoughts about you are none of your business. Mel dives deeper into how damaging it is to live in approval addiction. She explains how chasing validation keeps you from making bold moves. You won't speak up in meetings. You won't post that idea online. You won't say no when someone crosses a line. You won't ask for what you need in relationships. Why? Because you're afraid of how people might perceive you. But here's the breakthrough. You don't need universal approval to live an exceptional life. You just need self-respect. She offers an exercise you can try next time you catch yourself spiraling over someone else's opinion. 1. Ask yourself, do I respect the person who's judging me? 2. If yes, ask, is their feedback helpful, loving, or constructive? 3. If no, remind yourself, their opinion does not define my worth. This exercise is simple but effective. It teaches you to stop giving weight to every voice in the room. Not all criticism is created equal. Some people judge because they're insecure. Some gossip because they're bored. Some dislike you simply because you remind them of something they haven't healed. Let them. Mel also talks about online judgment, something that's exploded in our digital age. You post a photo. Someone makes a passive-aggressive comment. You share your story. Someone questions your facts. You set a boundary. Someone calls you selfish. The moment you put yourself out there, someone will have something to say. But guess what? That's not a problem. That's proof you're living fully. Mel shares how she used to get rattled by negative comments under her videos. Her inner critic would scream, "See? You're not good enough." But eventually she made peace with the truth. If you're doing anything worthwhile, someone will misunderstand it. And the more you succeed, the louder the noise gets. So now she lets them. Let them comment, let them doubt. Let them sit in their small-mindedness while you grow. You don't owe your silence to anyone's comfort. One of the most powerful lines in this chapter is this: you can be the juiciest, ripest peach on the tree, and there will still be someone who hates peaches. Let that sink in. You will never be everyone's cup of tea, but the people who are meant for you will love you in full flavor, unfiltered, unedited, and unafraid. Mel closes the chapter with a reframe. Every time someone doubts you, critiques you, or talks behind your back, she wants you to ask, what am I going to do with that energy? You can waste it trying to change their minds, or you can redirect it toward your goals. You can let their voice drown you, or you can let it sharpen your focus. You can play small to fit their expectations, or you can rise, louder, braver, freer. Because here's the real secret. People don't think about you nearly as much as you believe they do. They're too busy worrying about themselves. The story you're replaying in your head, they've already forgotten it. The thing you said, they weren't even listening. The outfit, the post, the silence, probably didn't even register. And if it did, let them. You've got a life to live. Chapter 6, let them be upset. We've all been there. You say no to a request and immediately feel guilty. You express how you feel and someone gets defensive. You make a choice that's right for you, but someone else doesn't like it. And suddenly you're overwhelmed, overthinking, and regretting your decision. Why? Because someone else is upset. In Chapter 6, Mel Robbins takes us straight to the heart of this common, exhausting pattern. Your fear of someone else's discomfort is costing you your peace. But what if you didn't take responsibility for everyone's emotional reactions? What if you allowed people to feel what they feel and stopped scrambling to fix it? That's the invitation of this chapter. Let them be upset. Yes, it might be uncomfortable at first, but Mel wants you to hear this loud and clear. You are not responsible for how someone else reacts to your truth. Let's break this down. When you set a boundary, someone might get mad. Let them. When you cancel plans to rest, someone might feel disappointed. Let them. When you speak your mind, someone might take it the wrong way. Let them. When you don't respond to a text immediately, someone might feel ignored. Let them. Mel shares a deeply honest story about her own struggle with this. Early in her career, she would agree to things she didn't want to do just to avoid making people upset. She'd say yes to speaking gigs that didn't feel aligned. She'd over-apologize. She'd follow up with people just to soothe their feelings, even when she wasn't wrong. Why? Because like so many of us, she feared being perceived as rude, selfish, or cold. But eventually she realized something. Her need to keep everyone else emotionally comfortable was making her mentally exhausted. And worse, it was keeping her from living in alignment with her values. So she started practicing a new way. She learned to sit with the discomfort of someone else's disappointment. She learned to say no without an apology. She learned that sometimes being kind to yourself will feel unkind to others, but that doesn't make it wrong. Mel gives us this game-changing mindset. Just because someone's feelings are hurt doesn't mean you did something wrong. This is such an important distinction. In a world where we're taught to avoid conflict at all costs, it's easy to assume that if someone's upset, we must have failed. But sometimes people get upset simply because you're no longer doing what they want. And that's not your fault. That's their emotional work to do. Let's explore a few examples. Example 1. The people-pleasing parent. You've always hosted the holidays. You cook, clean, organize. But this year you want to do something different. Maybe travel, or have a quiet day with just your immediate family. You finally say it and your in-laws are not happy. Cue the guilt. But instead of giving in, you remind yourself, let them be upset. Let them feel their feelings. You're not rejecting them, you're honoring yourself. And guess what? Adults can handle disappointment. They'll be okay. Example 2. The coworker who dumps work on you. You've been picking up the slack for months, but now you're burned out. So when they ask you to help, again you say no. They huff, maybe roll their eyes, maybe gossip. Let them. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be respected. And respect begins with you respecting your own limits. Example 3. The friend who wants more than you can give. You love your friend, but lately their energy has felt heavy. You need space. You set a boundary and they don't take it well. They send a dramatic text, they don't talk to you for days. Let them. You can still love someone and choose space. Their reaction is not your responsibility. What Mel emphasizes here is emotional maturity. Healthy relationships require the ability to disappoint people without destroying yourself. If someone can't handle your no, your truth, or your needs, they're not your safe person. And you don't need to twist yourself into a version of acceptable just to keep them calm. One of the most powerful quotes in this chapter is, "You're not in charge of how people feel about your boundaries. You're in charge of protecting your peace." Mic drop. Mel also addresses the fear that often lurks underneath. What if they leave? What if they don't forgive me? What if I ruin the relationship? Her answer is real and compassionate. If your relationship depends on you never saying no, it's not a real relationship. It's control. A true connection can survive honest boundaries. It can survive temporary discomfort. And if someone walks away because you finally stood up for yourself, let them. This mindset isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. It's not about avoiding emotion. It's about allowing people to have theirs without making it your job to manage. Mel walks us through a practical process for applying "let them be upset" in real life. 1. Notice the trigger. When you feel the urge to fix someone's mood, pause. 2. Name the pattern. Say to yourself, "I'm about to take responsibility for their reaction." 3. Remind yourself of your truth. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to disappoint. 4. Breathe and repeat the mantra, "Let them be upset. I am still a good person." 5. Don't chase. Give people space to feel what they feel. Another powerful story Mel shares is from a woman named Denise, who decided to stop attending her family's weekly dinners. They were always chaotic, filled with subtle jabs and judgment, and she left feeling worse every time. When she told her family she needed a break, they exploded. Guilt trips, accusations, tears. In the past, Denise would have folded, but this time she didn't chase or explain. She said, "I love you all. I need this break. I'm here if you want to talk calmly." And then, she let them be upset. It wasn't easy, but it was empowering. And weeks later, her sister called and said, "I didn't get it before, but now I do. You were taking care of yourself, and I admire that." Sometimes people need time to adjust to your new boundaries, but they'll never get that chance if you keep rescuing them from discomfort. Discomfort is often the doorway to growth for both of you. Mel leaves us with one final truth. Your job is not to be emotionally convenient for other people. Your job is to be emotionally honest with yourself. When you stop trying to control other people's emotional states, you find something far more valuable: your own emotional freedom. Let them pout. Let them misinterpret. Let them project. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them grow. And let you breathe. Let you rest. Let you trust yourself. Let you keep walking toward a more peaceful life. Chapter 7. Overcoming Chronic Comparison. Let's be real. Comparison is one of the most subtle yet vicious ways we sabotage our peace. In Chapter 7, Mel Robbins tackles this toxic habit head-on. Whether you're scrolling social media, watching a coworker climb the ladder, or feeling like you're 10 steps behind your friends, comparison can make you feel like you're always losing, even when you're doing just fine. Mel opens the chapter with a vulnerable admission. She's spent years comparing herself to others, other speakers, other authors, other moms, other women with better organized homes and calmer lives, and the result? Every time she fell into the trap, she lost focus on her own goals and started feeling like a failure. That's what comparison does. It distracts you from your lane and pulls you into someone else's. You forget your progress, you question your path, and you get caught in a loop of "why not me" and "what's wrong with me?" But here's what Mel wants you to understand. Comparison isn't the enemy. What you do with it is. She teaches that when you feel jealous or insecure, it's not a sign that you're behind. It's a signal, a clue. It means there's something in that person's success or lifestyle that you desire too. So instead of spiraling into shame, use comparison as data. Ask yourself, what about this triggers me? What does this person have that I want? Is this a dream I've been ignoring? For example, if you find yourself getting irritated at someone's travel photos, maybe it's not about them. It's about the fact that you haven't taken a break in years. If you feel resentful about a friend's promotion, maybe it's time to look at your own job satisfaction. The comparison didn't hurt you. The avoidance did. Mel puts it beautifully. Let them win, and let that inspire you to try. Let that sink in. Instead of shrinking or dismissing your envy, let them succeed, let them shine. Let them have what they've earned, and then let you get honest about what you want too. Mel shares a story about a former college roommate who wrote a best-selling book. and was suddenly being interviewed on national TV. And instead of celebrating her, Mel felt something else: jealousy, shame, a twinge of resentment. She started questioning herself. Why not me? I work just as hard. I've got something to say too. But rather than judge those feelings, she got curious. She realized that the envy was just information. It meant she had a message inside her that she wasn't sharing. It meant she had been playing small. So instead of letting the jealousy grow, she used it as fuel and wrote her own book. That's the reframe. Comparison isn't proof you're losing. It's a mirror showing you what you want. So what's the solution? Mel introduces the let them mantra again, this time with a comparison twist. Let them win. Let them have it. Let them be ahead. Let them glow. Let them go viral. Let them get married first. Let them buy the house. Let them have the abs. Let them be 10 steps ahead. Let them. And then, let me figure out what matters to me. This is one of the most important mindset shifts in the book, because when you stop trying to match someone else's journey and start listening to your own, you rediscover your power. And when you embrace that, comparison stops being a threat and starts being a compass. Let's break down a few real-life examples Mel gives in this chapter. Example 1, the friend who's perfect on Instagram. They've got the matching outfits, the clean kitchen, the smiling kids, and the dreamy vacations. And every time you see their stories, you feel a wave of shame or resentment. Mel says, let them. Let them curate their life. Let them post what they want. And let yourself remember that no one posts their mess. You're not behind, you're just being real. Example 2, the coworker who gets promoted. You've worked just as hard, but they're the one climbing fast. It stings. You want to be happy for them, but you're frustrated. Mel says, let them move up. Let them be noticed. And let you use this moment to decide, do I need to speak up more? Ask for a raise? Find a better workplace? Comparison here is fuel. Let it push you forward, not hold you back. Example 3, the sibling who always seems to have it together. They've got the marriage, the house, the money, and every family gathering you feel like the disappointment. Mel says, let them have their life. Let them live their story, and let you write yours, with your own timelines and your own version of success. Mel also wants you to know this. You never see the full picture. The person you envy? They're struggling too. They're insecure too. They're fighting battles you'll never see. So stop assuming that someone else's success means you're doing something wrong. It's not a competition. It's just life, and we all get different chapters at different times. To help you shift out of comparison mode, Mel offers a grounding practice. Every time you catch yourself spiraling, stop and say, let them live their life. Let me focus on mine. Then write down 3 things you're grateful for in your own journey. 3 things you've done well. 3 moments of progress. Gratitude kills comparison. Focus realigns your energy. Toward the end of the chapter, Mel shares one of her favorite truths. You can't compare your beginning to someone else's middle, or your real life to their highlight reel. You're not behind. You're just on your own path. And the fastest way to find peace? Let them be great and let yourself become great too. So the next time you scroll and feel behind, the next time you hear someone's good news and flinch, the next time you feel like you'll never catch up, pause, breathe, let them shine, and let you step back into your own light. Chapter 8. Let Me, Owning Your Power. Up until this point, the let them theory has helped you create distance between your peace and other people's opinions, judgments, and moods. You've learned to let go of control, to let people walk, to let them feel what they feel. But in Chapter 8, Mel Robbins introduces a turning point. The most important words in the whole theory aren't just let them, they're let me. This chapter is about stepping into your power, not just by releasing others, but by choosing yourself. Consistently, courageously, and unapologetically. Mel opens with a bold truth. You don't need anyone's permission to change your life, you just need your own. That statement is simple, but for many of us it's revolutionary. We spend years waiting for the right time, waiting for someone to believe in us, waiting to feel ready. But the truth? You won't feel ready. You'll just get tired of your own excuses. That's where Let Me comes in. Mel walks us through a real moment in her own journey. She was stuck, overwhelmed, burned out, drowning in debt. She knew what she wanted, to write, to speak, to inspire, but she kept hesitating. Her brain would find excuses. I'm not qualified. Who do I think I am? What if I fail? Sound familiar? But then she had an epiphany. If I'm waiting for someone to come fix this for me, it's not going to happen. So she made a choice. Let me fix it. Let me start writing. Let me show up. She didn't wait for confidence. She created it through action. That's the power of let me. Let me take the first step. Let me stop explaining myself. Let me show up imperfectly. Let me own my desires. Mel wants you to understand that let me is where momentum begins. You can let go of the things you can't control, but at some point you have to decide what you will do. And if you're not deciding that, you're not fully free. She walks us through a few let me moments that changed her life. Let me get out of bed when everything in me wants to hide. Let me reach out for help when I feel ashamed. Let me stop chasing people and chase my dream instead. Let me believe in my ability to change even when I've failed before. She reminds us that small, consistent actions create momentum. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need a 10-step plan, you just need to say, let me show up today. Let's look at a few real-world examples from the chapter. Example 1. The aspiring entrepreneur. You have an idea for a business, a blog, a YouTube channel, a side hustle, but you keep waiting for more time, more clarity, more confidence. Mel says, let them doubt you, let them not get it, and let me start. Let me buy the domain. Let me post the first video. Let me make one sale. Let me begin without permission. Example 2. The burned out mom. You're doing everything for everyone, but you've lost yourself. You don't even remember what makes you happy. Mel says, let them expect dinner on the table. Let them be annoyed when you say no. And let me take a walk. Let me get back into yoga. Let me rest. Let me choose me, even if just for an hour. Example 3. The person stuck in a dead-end job. You're overworked and undervalued. You know you want something better, but you're afraid. Mel says, let them keep running the place how they want. And let me update my resume. Let me book the coffee chat. Let me explore new paths. Your job doesn't define your potential. What makes Let Me so powerful is that it breaks you out of waiting mode and into personal responsibility. You stop outsourcing your future to circumstances, to timing, to approval. You realize that the only person who can create the life you want is you. Mel addresses the fear we all face here. What if I try and fail? Her answer? What if you never try? What if you never know what you were capable of? Failure is not the problem. Stagnation is. You're not meant to stay stuck. You're meant to evolve. And let me is how you start. She also introduces a practice to help you build the let me mindset. Every morning, ask yourself, what's one let me move I can make today? It doesn't have to be big. In fact, small is better. The goal is to build momentum. One push-up, one email, one honest conversation, one act of self-care. Let me try. Let me learn. Let me show up. Mel reminds us that your future is not built by giant leaps. It's built by tiny moments where you choose yourself over your excuses, where you stop numbing and start creating, where you stop hiding and start stepping forward. And here's the magic. The more you say, let me, the more your confidence grows. Because confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you earn by doing the thing you were scared to do. Toward the end of the chapter, Mel drops a powerful challenge. Don't just let them live their life, let you live yours. Let you be bold. Let you mess up. Let you try again. Let you chase your dream, even if it looks different than you imagined. She wants you to stop being a background character in your own story. Stop playing small so others feel comfortable. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. You are the main character, the hero, the leader. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing. So today, instead of wondering why not me, say, let me find out. Chapter 9. Adult Relationships and Boundaries. In this chapter, Mel Robbins tackles one of the most misunderstood and often avoided areas of adult life: boundaries. Whether it's with parents, partners, friends, coworkers, or even our kids, setting boundaries can feel awkward, scary, or even mean. But here's what Mel wants you to understand. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are bridges to a better version of you. She opens this chapter with a truth bomb. Most of the stress in your adult relationships is not caused by what others do. It's caused by what you allow. And often, what you allow comes from avoiding difficult conversations. Think about it. You say yes when you want to say no. You smile and nod when someone crosses a line. You keep the peace at the expense of your peace, all because you're trying to avoid conflict, guilt, or rejection. Mel gets it, she's lived it. For years, she overfunctioned in nearly every relationship. She tried to keep everyone happy, anticipate needs, prevent problems, smooth over tension. But all that overcaring left her feeling resentful, depleted, and invisible. That's why Chapter 9 is about reclaiming your power through boundaries. It's about learning to say, let them expect whatever they want. Let me do what's right for me. One of the key points Mel makes here is that boundaries are not about changing other people. They're about honoring your needs. When you set a boundary, you're not controlling someone. You're clarifying what's okay and what's not okay for you. She gives us this clear formula. A boundary is when you say, this is what I need, this is what I won't tolerate, and this is what I will do if the line is crossed. Let's look at some examples. Example 1. The always calling parent. Your mom calls every day, often at inconvenient times. You love her, but it interrupts your work or rest. You've never said anything because guilt. Mel says, let her want daily connection and let you create a boundary. You might say, I love talking to you, but I can't talk every day. Tuesdays and Sundays work best for me. Let her be confused or disappointed. Let you prioritize your time and mental space. Example 2. The emotionally draining friend they vent. Constantly. Every phone call is a spiral of complaints. You always feel drained after talking to them. Mel says, let them have their emotions and let you protect your energy. You don't need to ghost them, but you can say, hey, I've got 10 minutes, let's keep it light today. That's not rude. That's clarity. Example 3. The partner who doesn't help around the house. You've dropped hints, you've hoped they'd notice, but nothing changes. You're drowning in responsibilities. Mel says, let them assume you'll always do it. Let them be surprised when you set a new standard, and let you have the conversation. You might say, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need us to divide this more evenly. Clear, firm, not a fight, just a fact. Mel also talks about how boundaries can feel unnatural if you weren't raised to set them. If you grew up in a family where emotions were avoided or where saying no was punished, you probably learned that your needs were secondary. But here's what she wants you to know. It's not your fault you didn't learn boundaries, but it is your responsibility to start practicing them. She offers this powerful reminder. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will push back when you set them. Let them. That pushback isn't a sign that your boundary is wrong. It's a sign that it's working. Mel encourages you to stay calm in the face of discomfort. When you say no, don't over-explain. When you state a need, don't justify it. When someone pushes back, don't apologize, just repeat your boundary with kindness and clarity. She also reminds us that boundaries protect your peace, but they also protect your relationships. When you don't express what's okay and what's not, resentment builds. And resentment is what poisons connection. Boundaries aren't the end of love, they're the beginning of healthy love. One powerful story Mel shares in this chapter is about a couple she coached. The wife felt exhausted and angry because she was handling everything at home. The husband wasn't lazy. He just assumed she wanted it that way because she never said otherwise. When she finally voiced her frustration and set a boundary around emotional labor, things began to shift. Not instantly, not perfectly, but the door opened. That's what boundaries do. They open the door to real communication. They take you out of silent resentment and into respectful honesty. Mel also addresses a big fear. What if I lose people by setting boundaries? Her answer is gentle but firm. Then they were never really there for you. They were there for what you provided, and that's okay. Let them go. Because you can't build a life around keeping others comfortable while you slowly disappear. As the chapter closes, Mel offers this mantra to help you start practicing. Let them have their expectations. Let me have my limits. Let them be upset. Let me stay grounded. Let them do what they do. Let me protect my peace. So the next time you hesitate to speak up, the next time you want to say no but fear guilt, the next time someone crosses a line and you tell yourself to let it go, pause, breathe, and say, let them expect, let me decide. Because your boundaries are not burdens. They're blueprints for a life that feels safe, honest, and truly your own. Chapter 10. Let them walk away. There's nothing more human and nothing more painful than being left behind. Whether it's a breakup, a friendship fading, a family member pulling away, or someone simply not showing up the way they used to, the feeling of abandonment cuts deep. It brings up fear, shame, confusion, and 100 questions. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? How could they just leave? In Chapter 10, Mel Robbins offers a simple but life-changing reframe for that grief. Let them walk away. Yes, it's heartbreaking, but also, yes, it's often necessary. Mel shares that this chapter was the hardest for her to write because it touches something we all fear deep down: the loss of connection. We are wired for belonging. So when someone leaves, it can feel like a failure or a rejection of who we are. But here's what she wants you to remember. When people walk away, it's not always about you. And even if it is, you're still allowed to stay true to yourself. One of the most powerful things she says in this chapter is this: people walking away is not the end of your story. Sometimes it's the beginning of your healing. Mel tells the story of a very close friend who slowly distanced herself after Mel's TEDx talk went viral. This was someone she'd laughed with, cried with, leaned on. But as Mel's career grew, her friend became distant, then critical, then disappeared. And Mel was crushed. She tried to reconnect. She sent texts. She replayed the conversations. She doubted herself. Until finally, she stopped. And she said the two words that brought her peace. Let her. Let her walk. Mel didn't get the closure she wanted, but she got something better. Clarity. She saw that people grow in different directions, that not all friendships are built for every season, and that sometimes letting someone walk away is the most respectful, self-loving thing you can do. Because here's the truth: holding on to people who don't want to stay only keeps you stuck. It keeps you in a loop of chasing, proving, hoping, and all that energy could be poured into your own growth. Mel invites us to ask a radical question. What if losing them is what frees you to become who you were meant to be? Think about it. The breakup that broke your heart, it made you stronger. The boss who let you go, it led to something better. The friend who ghosted you, it created space for deeper, truer connections. Let them walk away. She shares another story of a woman named Jenna, who had been in a romantic relationship for over 7 years. They lived together. They talked about marriage, but something always felt just slightly off. He was distant, often unresponsive, and non-committal. Jenna kept trying to be better, do more, love harder. Until one day, without warning, he ended it. She was shattered. But with time, she realized she had been holding onto a version of love that was draining her. She had been afraid to let go, so he did it for her. And now, she's thriving. She's grateful, because she learned the hardest truth. Sometimes their absence is the blessing you couldn't give yourself. Mel gently but firmly reminds us, if someone doesn't want to be in your life, you don't want them there either. Not really, not fully. Because love that's forced isn't love. It's fear in disguise. And you deserve more than that. So how do you let someone walk away without bitterness, blame, or self-destruction? Mel offers a 4-part process. 1. Allow the grief. Let yourself feel the loss. Journal, cry, talk to a friend. Don't bypass the pain with toxic positivity. Feel it all. 2. Stop chasing. No more texts. No more checking their social media. No more trying to re-explain yourself. Let them. 3. Honor what it taught you. Every relationship is a mirror. What did it show you about your needs, patterns, or boundaries? 4. Redirect your energy. Start doing what you avoided. Go where you weren't supported. Invest in yourself the way you were investing in them. And the most important part? Forgive them. Even if they never apologize. Even if they never come back. Even if they didn't deserve it. Forgive them not because they're right, but because you're ready to be free. Mel emphasizes that letting people walk isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about becoming anchored. Anchored in your truth, your value, your wholeness. When someone leaves, you don't have to collapse. You don't have to chase closure. You don't have to become smaller. You can stand in grace and say, I release you and I reclaim me. She even suggests a simple affirmation to say when the urge to chase returns. I trust that what's meant for me will stay, and what's not, I bless and let go. One of the most poignant quotes from this chapter is this: if someone wants to leave, open the door, hold it with love, and walk yourself back into your own light. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for them and for you is let go with dignity. Mel also acknowledges that some relationships may circle back around. People grow, people return. But even then, the let them mindset applies. Let them come back on their own. Let them reach out. Let them do the work. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't compromise your boundaries for a second chance. Because you've changed. You're not the same person who once thought you had to beg for love, beg for attention, beg for connection. Now, you say, let them walk. Let me rise. Chapter 11. Let it hurt. Healing through the pain. We all carry it. Some of it is loud and sharp like the sting of heartbreak, betrayal, or rejection. And some of it is quiet and lingering like regret, shame, or the ache of something we never got. In Chapter 11, Mel Robbins gives us permission to do something most people are too afraid to do. Feel it. Let it hurt. Let it come up. Let it move through you. Because here's the truth. What you refuse to feel, you will keep reliving. And if you avoid your pain, it doesn't go away. It just shows up in different forms. Anxiety, resentment, exhaustion, numbness. You might call it burnout. You might call it being stuck. But underneath, it's often unfelt pain. Mel opens this chapter with a bold truth. You can't move on if you haven't allowed yourself to grieve what you lost. And sometimes what you lost isn't just a person. It's a version of yourself. A version that trusted more. Loved more freely. Hoped for something different. This chapter is not about quick fixes. It's not about pretending everything's okay. It's about making peace with the messy, honest process of healing. And the first step? Letting it hurt. Mel shares the story of a breakup she had in her early 20s. At the time, she believed this man was the one. She imagined a whole future with him. And when he ended it suddenly with no explanation, it wrecked her. She didn't eat, she didn't sleep. She spent weeks trying to figure out what went wrong. But instead of sitting with the heartbreak, she avoided it. She drank. She distracted herself. She threw herself into work. She pretended to be fine. But the pain never really left. It lived under the surface, shaping how she loved and how much she trusted, until she finally stopped and let herself feel the truth. It wasn't about him. It was about the story she had created around him, about being chosen, about being worthy, about proving she could be enough. And that's the kind of pain many of us are carrying. Not just the wound itself, but the meaning we've attached to it. They left me, so I must be unlovable. They didn't see me, so I must be invisible. They hurt me, so I must deserve it. Mel wants you to hear this. That's not the truth. That's trauma. And the way through it isn't around. It's through. Let it hurt. Let the tears come. Let the memories rise. Let yourself be human. Mel introduces a practice she calls emotional honesty journaling. Every morning she writes down, what am I really feeling today? Where do I feel it in my body? What is this pain trying to teach me? This practice doesn't solve the pain, but it makes space for it. And when you make space for your emotions instead of stuffing them, they begin to soften. She also encourages readers to stop shaming themselves for still hurting. Healing doesn't follow a timeline. Sometimes grief hits you 5 minutes after the loss. Sometimes it hits 5 years later in the middle of the grocery store. Let it hit. Let it move through. Let it say what it needs to say. Because when you honor your pain, you finally start to release it. Mel shares a powerful quote from a trauma therapist she once worked with. Your body keeps score until you stop ignoring the scoreboard. That means your stress, your triggers, your anxiety, it's all data. It's telling you where you're still holding pain that hasn't been witnessed. So what's the role of the let them theory in all this? It's twofold. Let them cause the pain and let me feel it fully. Not to relive the wound, but to finally let it breathe. Mel gives us examples of how to apply this in real life. Example 1. An unresolved friendship break. You lost a friend, but there was no fight. No closure. Just silence. You keep wondering what happened. Mel says, let them drift. Let them choose their distance. Let it hurt. Write them a letter you never send. Feel it. Then burn it. You don't need answers to grieve the ending. Example 2. A childhood wound. You grew up never feeling truly seen or supported. You've carried that into your adult relationships. Mel says, let them have been who they were. Let them have lacked the tools. Let it hurt. You were not wrong for needing more. You still deserve more. And now you get to give that to yourself. Example 3. A divorce or breakup that gutted you. You tried everything, but it ended, and you blame yourself for not being enough. Mel says, let them go. Let them not choose you. Let it hurt. Mourn not just the person, but the version of life you thought you'd have. That was real, that was sacred, and now something new will rise in its place. The heart of this chapter is this. You're not broken because you're still hurting. You're healing because you're finally allowing yourself to feel. Mel warns against using self-help as a way to bypass pain. Motivation is great, but not if it becomes a mask. You don't need to power through every heartbreak. Sometimes you need to collapse for a moment. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is lie on the floor and cry. And when you're done crying, you stand. Maybe shaky, maybe slower, but stronger. Mel offers a mantra for your healing days. Let them go. Let it hurt. Let me heal. Because healing isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. You'll circle back to the pain, but every time you'll be wiser, softer, braver. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not forgetting what happened, but remembering it without breaking. So the next time the sadness resurfaces, the next time the memory stings, the next time the past whispers that you'll never be okay, pause, put your hand on your heart, and say, let it hurt. I'm safe now. I'm healing now. I'm coming home to myself. Chapter 12. Let them be unfair. Life isn't fair, you've heard it before. You've probably said it out loud or whispered it in frustration after someone betrayed your trust, judged you unfairly, took credit for your work, or simply treated you in a way that made you feel invisible. And let's be honest, it hurts. In Chapter 12, Mel Robbins brings us face to face with one of the hardest pills to swallow. People will sometimes treat you unfairly, and you won't get justice or closure. But rather than stay stuck in resentment or revenge fantasies, she gives us something far more powerful: permission to stop wasting energy trying to fix it. The message? Let them be unfair. That doesn't mean you excuse it. That doesn't mean it didn't hurt. That doesn't mean you deserved it. It just means this: you're done carrying it. Mel opens with a powerful truth. The longer you fight to make someone see how wrong they were, the more you abandon yourself. You give your power away trying to get them to apologize, explain, or acknowledge what they did. But often, they don't. They won't. And even if they did, it still wouldn't erase what happened. So the healing begins when you stop needing fairness from someone who can't even give you basic respect. Let's talk about how this shows up in everyday life. Example 1. The sibling who plays the victim. No matter how much you help, they spin the story to make you the bad guy. They manipulate the rest of the family. You want to scream, that's not how it happened. Mel says, let them play their role, let them talk, let them have their version of the story. You live your truth, you hold your peace. Example 2. The coworker who took credit for your idea. You worked hard. You pitched something in a meeting. And later someone else presented it as their own and got praised. Mel says, let them take the applause. You can speak up professionally, yes. But don't let it spiral into revenge or obsession. Your work will speak louder in the long run. Example 3. The ex who smeared your name. You kept the breakup mature and respectful. They didn't. They dragged your name through mud, told half-truths, and turned mutual friends against you. Mel says, let them reveal who they are. And you? Let you walk away with dignity. You don't have to match their immaturity to reclaim your power. Mel makes it clear, we think fairness brings peace, but it's actually release that brings peace. You can't force someone to grow. You can't beg someone to be kind. You can't manipulate someone into being the person you need them to be. But you can decide, I won't carry this bitterness any longer. I won't keep explaining myself to people committed to misunderstanding me. I won't shrink to earn fairness that should be given freely. Mel brings up a deeply personal moment from her own past. Years ago, she was part of a collaboration where her work was dismissed and overshadowed by louder, more dominant voices. At first, she fumed. She replayed the conversations. She tried to get allies. But the more she tried to make it right, the worse she felt. Eventually, she stopped. She asked herself, why am I trying so hard to be treated fairly by people who don't value me? So she said, let them minimize me. Let them keep the credit. Let them continue on their path. And in doing that, she got something better than fairness. She got her power back. Mel reminds us that unfair treatment is often a redirection. It's life saying, this isn't your tribe, this isn't your space, there's something better. She even writes, when you stop fighting to stay in rooms where you're not respected, you make space for the ones where you're celebrated. Yes, you could call them out. Yes, you could expose them. But ask yourself, to what end? Is it for your growth or is it for revenge? Most of the time, revenge keeps us tied to the very people we're trying to get away from. Mel encourages us to choose emotional freedom over righteousness. Sometimes walking away quietly is louder than any argument you could ever make. She shares a mantra that has become a lifeline for many readers. Let them be unfair. Let me stay grounded. Let me keep rising. This doesn't mean you stop advocating for yourself. If you're in a toxic workplace, speak up or make a plan to leave. If someone crosses a serious boundary, set consequences. If you're dealing with legal injustice, pursue it through the right channels. But don't let the emotional warfare drain you. Don't sacrifice your joy trying to change people who've shown you they don't care. One of the most transformative quotes from this chapter is, "You will never get fairness from someone who is committed to being right more than they are to being kind. So stop waiting for it. Let them believe the lies. Let them misinterpret your silence. Let them cling to their version. Let them live in their ego. And you? Let you walk into the next chapter without bitterness in your heart." Mel offers a final practical exercise to seal this lesson. Write down the situation where you were treated unfairly. Write down the story you keep telling yourself about it. Now ask, what do I gain by holding on to this? Then write your new story. Let them go. Let me pursue. Example, let them gossip. Let me keep showing up with integrity. Let them keep the credit. Let me keep creating my own path. Let them walk away. Let me move forward without chasing justice. Mel closes the chapter with this truth. Justice is beautiful, but peace is better. And sometimes peace begins with the words, let them. Chapter 13. Let them disappoint you. Disappointment. It stings in a very particular way. It's not just about what happened, it's about what didn't happen. The call that never came. The support you thought you'd get. The loyalty you assumed was mutual. Disappointment is grief with no big explosion. It's quiet, but powerful. In Chapter 13, Mel Robbins invites us to stop resisting this very human experience. Her message? Let them disappoint you. Because when you allow people to show you who they really are, and accept that they may never be who you hoped they'd be, you stop getting crushed by every unmet expectation. Mel opens this chapter with a deeply relatable example, her birthday. One year she had hoped for a special celebration. Not a huge party, just something thoughtful, a dinner reservation, a card, a moment of recognition. But when the day came, it was business as usual. Everyone was busy, no big gestures, just a happy birthday in passing. She didn't want to seem high maintenance, so she smiled, said thanks, and moved on. But inside, she felt invisible. She felt like no one really saw her. That's the tricky thing about disappointment. We often don't talk about it because we're afraid of looking needy, dramatic, or ungrateful. But unspoken disappointment turns into resentment. And resentment, if left unchecked, poisons your relationships. Mel's solution isn't to demand more from everyone around you. It's to adjust your expectations and get honest. People can only meet you where they are. And sometimes that's far from where you hoped they'd be. Let them. Let your partner forget the small thing that matters to you. Let your friend not call when they say they will. Let your boss overlook your effort. Let your family not understand your choices. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop being shocked every time someone doesn't show up the way you want. Mel makes it clear. Disappointment isn't a sign that people are bad. It's a sign that they're human. And when you start seeing people as who they are, instead of who you wish they'd be, everything gets easier. One of the most powerful shifts she describes in this chapter is this. Disappointment hurts most when it's tied to unspoken expectations. In other words, people can't read your mind. If you never expressed your need, you can't punish them for not meeting it. So when disappointment strikes, Mel offers 3 questions to ask yourself. 1. Did I clearly communicate what I needed? 2. Am I expecting this person to be someone they've never shown me they are? 3. Can I meet this need for myself instead of outsourcing it? Let's look at some examples. Example 1. The friend who always flakes on plans, you keep inviting them out and they keep bailing last minute. You tell yourself to just let it go, but you're hurt. Mel says let them disappoint you. This is who they are. Adjust your expectations. Don't rely on them for stability. It's not mean, it's mature. Example 2. The parent who doesn't acknowledge your accomplishments. You land a new job, publish a book, or hit a milestone. You expect a proud text or call. Instead, silence. Mel says, let them. They may be emotionally unavailable. They may not know how to express pride. Let the disappointment come. Feel it. Then stop expecting them to become someone they're not. Example 3. The partner who forgets the little things. You drop hints. You hope they'll surprise you, notice your effort, or plan something special. But they don't. Mel says, let them disappoint you once. Then communicate your needs clearly. If they still don't respond, let that teach you what they're capable of giving. Mel emphasizes this truth. Disappointment is data. It tells you where you're outsourcing your joy. It shows you which relationships need clearer boundaries or better communication, or less emotional investment. She shares a powerful quote. Stop expecting loyalty from people who don't even show up for themselves. Meek drop. Sometimes we hold others to standards they're not holding for themselves. You're waiting for consistency from someone who can't even be consistent with their own goals. You're expecting deep emotional support from someone who runs from their own feelings. Let them, and then, let you stop making their inconsistency your pain. Mel also makes space in this chapter for grief, because disappointment is a loss. It's the death of an illusion. And it's okay to mourn that. You thought someone would show up. They didn't. That hurts. But once you grieve it, you're free. She offers a powerful affirmation. I release my need for others to validate me. I grieve what I hoped they'd be. I accept who they are and adjust my expectations accordingly. Because that's what emotional adulthood looks like. Not punishing people for being human, but also not betraying yourself by pretending you're fine. So what happens when disappointment becomes a pattern? Mel says pay attention. A one-time disappointment is forgivable. Repeated disappointment, especially after you've communicated your needs, is a sign. A red flag. A message that this person may not belong in your inner circle. In those cases, the let them theory becomes your compass. Let them disappoint you. Let that reveal the truth. Let yourself create distance. Let yourself stop expecting what they cannot give. She also shares a story from a woman named Trina, who constantly felt let down by her sister. Last-minute cancellations, birthday forgetfulness, lack of emotional support. Trina kept waiting for her sister to change until she realized she's not going to. So instead of cutting her off, Trina changed her expectations. She stopped counting on her for emotional needs. She stopped expecting more than her sister could give. And the result? Their relationship actually improved, because the resentment disappeared. That's what happens when you stop expecting ocean depth from puddle-deep people. As Mel wraps up the chapter, she encourages us to shift from frustration to freedom. Next time someone lets you down, don't spiral, don't overthink, don't internalize, just say, let them disappoint me. Let that clarify what I can expect from them. And let me meet my needs with people who truly see me. Because real peace doesn't come from perfect people. It comes from clear expectations, honest communication, and self-trust. So the next time someone falls short, let them. Let it hurt. Let it teach you. Then let yourself stop waiting for more. And build the life you deserve with people who show up fully. Chapter 14. Let them live their life. How many times have you caught yourself thinking, why would they do that? Why would they stay with them? Why would they post that? Why don't they just... Whether it's your sibling, your child, your coworker, or your best friend, when people we care about make decisions we don't understand, it can make us feel frustrated, anxious, or even responsible. In Chapter 14, Mel Robbins invites you to do something radical. Let them live their life. It sounds simple, but if you're someone who loves deeply, who wants to protect others, or who feels like it's your job to help or save the people around you, this chapter is going to challenge you. Mel shares a truth we all need to hear. Just because you love someone doesn't mean you know what's best for them. And just because you see what they could do better doesn't mean it's your job to fix it. Let them stay in the job you would have quit. Let them date someone you don't approve of. Let them spend their money how they choose. Let them raise their kids differently than you. Let them make mistakes. Because you cannot grow for someone else. You cannot force change even if your intentions are pure. Trying to micromanage someone else's life, even from a place of love, doesn't help them. It often pushes them further away. Mel shares a story about her daughter Sawyer, who was making a decision Mel didn't agree with. Her first instinct as a mom was to jump in, offer advice, and steer her in a better direction. But then she remembered her own younger years, how much she learned from making her own choices, including the wrong ones. So she backed off. She said to herself, let her live her life. And what happened? Sawyer figured it out, on her own, in her own time. And because Mel didn't interfere, the relationship stayed open and strong. That's the secret. When you stop trying to control someone else's story, you leave space for connection, growth, and actual support. Let's look at some other relatable examples from this chapter. Example 1. The friend who keeps going back to a toxic relationship. You've talked. You've warned. You've listened to her cry over the same person again and again. Mel says, let her. Let her have her journey. Let her learn through her experience. You can set boundaries around what you're willing to listen to, but don't shame her. Just say, I love you, I'm here, and I trust you'll find your way. Example 2. Your adult child who doesn't follow your advice. You want them to go to school, save money, get stable, but they want to take risks, explore, try something unconventional. Mel says, let them. It's their life, not a continuation of yours. Be proud that they're bold enough to choose their own path, even if it's different from the one you'd pick. Example 3. A coworker who keeps self-sabotaging. You've seen them make the same mistake 3 times. You've offered help. They nod, then go back to old patterns. Mel says, let them. Sometimes people aren't ready. Sometimes they have to fall before they grow. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning them. It means trusting that their journey has its own timing. Mel explains that one of the biggest traps we fall into is this. If they loved me, they'd take my advice. But that's not true. People can love you deeply and still make choices that confuse or disappoint you. That doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means they're different. She says something incredibly freeing here. You don't have to understand someone's choices to respect their right to make them. That's emotional maturity. You're not waiting to say, I told you so. You're not judging silently, you're just loving them where they are. This is especially important in families. Trying to control a sibling, parent, or child out of love often backfires. But when you practice loving detachment, you keep the door open. You become a safe space, not a force they have to resist. Mel emphasizes this. No one changes when they feel judged, but people transform when they feel seen and accepted. So next time you're tempted to step in, push, or fix someone, ask yourself, is this about them or my need to control the outcome? Have they asked for advice, or am I offering it because I'm uncomfortable with their discomfort? Can I support them without trying to change them? Let them live their life. Mel shares a final story about a close friend who made a financial decision that, in her opinion, was completely reckless. She wanted to say something, warn him, maybe even stop him, but instead, she stepped back. She said nothing. And you know what? He learned. He admitted it later, but more importantly, he said, thank you for not making me feel stupid or incapable. That helped me more than advice ever could. Sometimes silence is the most loving support. Mel ends the chapter with one of the most powerful affirmations in the entire book. Let them live their life. Let me live mine. Let me love them without needing to change them. So the next time you're gripping tightly to someone else's decisions, breathe, step back, let them live their messy, beautiful, imperfect life, and trust that they'll find their way just like you did. Because freedom in relationships doesn't just mean you feel free. It means you give others the freedom to be themselves even when you don't understand it. Chapter 15. Let them feel their feelings. Let's talk about emotions, theirs, yours, all of them. In Chapter 15, Mel Robbins gives us a powerful reminder. Your emotions are valid, but they are not facts, and neither are anyone else's. People are going to feel what they feel. You can't control it. And if you try, you'll end up miserable. That's why the core message of this chapter is so freeing. Let them feel their feelings. It's such a simple idea, but most of us are taught the opposite. From a young age, we're trained to manage everyone else's emotional states. If mom was upset, you were quiet. If dad got angry, you tiptoed around. If your friend cried, you rushed to fix it. If someone was disappointed in you, you tried harder. The result? You grow up believing that other people's emotions are your responsibility. But Mel wants you to know they're not. You are responsible for how you act, not how other people feel. And the moment you stop trying to manage everyone else's emotions, you'll finally be able to manage your own. Mel gives several powerful examples in this chapter, starting with a story about a family vacation. Her son, Oakley, was in a terrible mood. He was sulking, snapping, generally bringing the vibe down. Old Mel, the one who wanted everything to be perfect, would have taken it personally. She would have tried to cheer him up or get frustrated and ruin the moment for herself too. But this time, she paused, took a breath, and said to herself, "Let him feel his feelings. He's allowed to be cranky. It's not your job to fix it. It's not a problem unless you make it one." And that's the shift. Just because someone else is upset doesn't mean you need to be. Just because they're mad doesn't mean you're wrong. Just because they're sad doesn't mean you have to make it better. Let them be sad. Let them be grumpy. Let them cry. Let them rage. Let them feel whatever it is they need to feel. Why? Because feelings are information, not emergencies. Mel explains that when you stop reacting to every emotional wave that hits the people around you, you stop being thrown off course. You become grounded. You can hold space without being pulled into the storm. Here are some real-life scenarios where let them feel their feelings applies perfectly. Example: your partner comes home stressed from work and snaps at you. Old response: you get defensive, snap back, or try to cheer them up and feel rejected. New response: let them. They had a hard day, you don't have to fix it. You can say, "I'm here if you want to talk," and go back to your peace. Mel even takes it a step further. She says, let yourself feel your feelings too. Don't just allow others their emotional space, give it to yourself. So often we suppress our emotions because we don't want to be too much or negative. But guess what? Suppressing emotions doesn't make them go away. It makes them stronger. Mel suggests a practice called name it to tame it. When you feel overwhelmed, pause and say out loud what you're feeling. I feel anxious. I feel hurt. I feel disappointed. I feel insecure. Why does this help? Because naming your emotions activates the rational part of your brain. It gives you distance. You're no longer in the emotion, you're observing it. She reminds us, your emotions are like weather. They roll in and they roll out. Your job isn't to control the storm, it's to not build your house in it. One of the most liberating things Mel says in this chapter is this: if someone is mad at you, it doesn't automatically mean you did something wrong. Let that sink in. Their emotions belong to them. They're responsible for how they express it, how they manage it, and how they recover from it. Your job is to stay grounded in your truth, and if needed, clarify and communicate with love. But not to bend just because someone else is emotionally activated. Mel walks us through a powerful script you can use when people are emotionally intense. It seems like you're upset. I care about you and I'm here, but I'm not going to take that energy on. When you're ready to talk calmly, I'd love to connect. That's not cold, that's emotionally intelligent. She also talks about emotional manipulation. Some people use their emotions to control others. Mel is clear. That's not your problem. That's a pattern they need to deal with. Your job is to hold your boundary, not their baggage. Let them feel what they feel and let you protect your peace. Mel shares a story about a friend who was constantly overwhelmed. Every time they talked, it turned into a vent session. Mel found herself absorbing all that emotion and walking away feeling worse. So she started saying, I'm here for you, but I also need to protect my own energy. Can we find a better way to support each other? The friend was taken aback, but ultimately it helped both of them grow. Because when you honor your own emotional boundaries, you give others permission to do the same. This chapter ends with a reminder. Letting people feel their feelings doesn't mean being indifferent, it means being wise. It means you love people enough to let them process life, and you love yourself enough to not let their waves drown your boat. So the next time someone's energy feels heavy, the next time emotions start to rise, the next time you're tempted to fix, appease, or control, pause, breathe, and say, let them feel. Let me stay grounded. Let us both grow from this moment, because you're not responsible for anyone else's emotional life, only your own. Chapter 16. Let them be someone else's problem. Let's get straight to it. Some people are not your problem to solve. In Chapter 16, Mel Robbins gives us the green light to stop carrying people we were never meant to carry in the first place. You know the ones, those who chronically drain you, disrespect your time, cross your boundaries, and never change, but always expect you to stick around. Whether it's the coworker who always dumps their work on you, the friend who never supports you but always expects your time, or the family member whose chaos becomes your emergency, Mel's message is crystal clear. Let them be someone else's problem. This chapter isn't about being cold or cruel. It's about liberation, emotional freedom, recognizing that your energy is a limited resource and not everyone deserves unlimited access to it. Mel shares a truth that might sting a little. If someone keeps draining you, it's not just their fault, it's also about your refusal to let go. Oof. But she's right. Because deep down, most of us believe that if we stop helping, stop fixing, stop listening, we're bad people. That if we don't pick up every call or help every time they ask, we're selfish. But the truth is, you're not selfish. You're just finally acknowledging your limits. Mel tells the story of a woman named Diane who spent years helping her brother through crisis after crisis. Addiction, bad relationships, money problems, legal trouble. Diane kept giving money, showing up, trying to rescue him, but every time he went back to the same self-destructive patterns. Eventually, Diane broke down. She was burned out, angry, resentful, and still nothing changed. That's when she found Mel's work and started using the let them approach. She told her brother, "I love you, but I can't keep showing up like this. I'm not abandoning you, I'm just stepping back. This is your life, your responsibility." She let him be someone else's problem, and what happened? He didn't change overnight, but Diane did. She got her peace back, her sleep, her clarity. And eventually their relationship got better because it was no longer based on guilt or enabling. Mel wants you to know, you are not a rehab center, emotional sponge, or unpaid life coach for people who refuse to help themselves. Let them. Let them find new support. Let them take responsibility. Let them experience consequences. Let them get uncomfortable enough to finally grow. And if they don't, let them keep repeating their cycle, just not on your time. This concept applies in so many situations. Example, the friend who only calls when they need something, they don't check in on you, they don't celebrate your wins. But the second they have a problem, you're their first call. Mel says let them and let you stop answering every time. You're allowed to be unavailable for relationships that only go one way. Mel explains that sometimes you're exhausted not because of life, but because of the people you keep dragging behind you. And that's the powerful question she poses. Who would I have more energy for if I stopped carrying people who aren't my responsibility? She encourages you to make a let them list. People, situations, and responsibilities you need to step away from. Let them find their own ride. Let them figure out dinner. Let them miss the deadline. Let them sit in the mess they created. Let them handle their emotions. Let them be upset that I'm no longer fixing it. Then, let yourself feel the relief, the clarity, the freedom. Mel knows this isn't easy, especially if you're a helper, healer, or someone who's always been the strong one. But she reminds us that being strong doesn't mean overextending. It means knowing when to stop. She drops one of the most liberating quotes of the entire book here. You're allowed to stop showing up for people who never show up for themselves. Read that again. You're not a bad friend for creating distance. You're not a bad daughter or son for stepping back. You're not a bad employee for sticking to your job description. You're a human being with boundaries. Mel also gives us a helpful mantra for when guilt creeps in. I'm not abandoning them. I'm honoring me. That reframe is everything, because letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying. There's a big difference. You can love someone and still say, this is not mine to hold. And if they say, you've changed, you have. You're no longer choosing burnout over boundaries. Mel closes the chapter with a reminder to protect your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. Your life is not a dumpster for other people's drama. Your time is not a donation. Your peace is not a free-for-all. So the next time you feel pulled into someone else's chaos, the next time guilt whispers that you should help, the next time you feel resentment rise in your chest, pause, breathe, and say, in a world cluttered with chaos, it's vital to prioritize your own well-being. Allow others to carry their burdens. They are not yours to shoulder. Protecting your energy means creating a sanctuary for your spirit. By choosing peace over external turmoil, you cultivate a beautiful inner garden. Focus on what nourishes you, drawing boundaries that honor your mental health and emotional tranquility. Embrace the serenity that comes from this choice. Chapter 17. Let them judge you. If there's one thing that can paralyze even the strongest among us, it's this: the fear of being judged. You hesitate before posting. You overthink every word in a text. You replay conversations in your head. You worry what your coworkers think, your family, strangers online. And slowly, without realizing it, you start living for other people's approval and not your own truth. In Chapter 17, Mel Robbins gives you permission to do something radical. Let them judge you. Because here's what she wants you to know: judgment is inevitable. Whether you stay quiet or speak up, someone's going to have a problem. Whether you follow your dream or play it safe, someone's going to have an opinion. So instead of trying to avoid judgment, learn to stand tall in the face of it. Mel opens the chapter with a truth that hits home. You're being judged anyway. You might as well be judged for being real. Boom. She shares a personal story about when she first started speaking publicly. She got so much criticism online, comments about her voice, her outfit, her story. Some were nasty, others were just subtly mean. And for a while it got to her. But then she realized, people judge from their own lens, their own limitations, their own unresolved stuff. And you can't control that. What you can control is this: will I let someone else's judgment decide who I become? Let's break down the different kinds of judgment you may face and how to apply let them to each one. 1. Judgment from strangers. These are the anonymous internet critics. The people who scroll, scoff, and type mean things behind a screen. Mel says let them. If someone is triggered by your joy, your growth, or your story, it says everything about them and nothing about you. Let them roll their eyes. Let them gossip. Let them mock. You're not for everyone, and you're not supposed to be. 2. Judgment from your family. This one's deeper. You want their support, their pride, their belief in you, but maybe they don't get your dreams. Maybe they criticize your parenting, your job, your relationship. Mel says, let them. Let your mom not understand your career choice. Let your uncle make snide remarks at dinner. Let your cousin think you've changed, because you have changed. You're growing. And that might make people uncomfortable, especially if they're still stuck. But don't shrink to fit their comfort zone. You weren't put on this earth to play small in order to keep others calm. 3. Judgment from your old self. This one's subtle, but it's big. Sometimes it's not even others who are judging you, it's your past self. The version of you who was afraid, who stayed quiet, who thought playing it safe was noble. Mel reminds us, growth can feel like betrayal to the version of you who settled. Let her be unsure. Let her grieve the old way. Let her catch up. Mel says this beautifully. The price of evolution is the judgment of those who don't understand your transformation, including the old you. And that's okay. You're allowed to outgrow the past. You're allowed to want more. 4. Judgment from friends and peers. This one cuts deep. Maybe you started a new business and your friends made jokes. Maybe you started therapy or sobriety or spiritual work, and your circle didn't support it. Maybe you posted something vulnerable online and it got side eyes. Let them, Mel says. Stop trying to be palatable for people who were only comfortable with your past. If someone withdraws because you're rising, let them go. If they misunderstand you, let them sit with their confusion. You don't need to explain your purpose to anyone who doesn't genuinely care about your growth. The let them reframe. Mel gives us one of the most powerful tools in the book, a reframe that neutralizes judgment. What if their judgment doesn't mean I'm wrong? What if it means I'm brave? Boom. Let that land. Most people will never pursue their dream, never say what they really mean, never take the leap. So when you do, of course they'll project their fear, their jealousy, their discomfort. Let them. Mel encourages you to switch the voice in your head. Instead of asking, what will they think? Will they judge me? What if they don't like it? Ask this, what do I think? Do I like who I'm becoming? Because that's what matters. She tells the story of someone who started posting content online after reading the 5-second rule. She was terrified. She felt unqualified. She worried about looking silly. And yes, People judged her. But guess what? More people thanked her, celebrated her, found hope in her courage. Mel says, don't let the few critics drown out the many supporters. And if nobody supports you, support yourself louder. That's what self-trust is. Here's a powerful mantra to carry with you. Let them judge. Let me be free. Mel also reminds us, you're judging people too, we all do it. It's part of how the human brain works. But the difference is, judgment doesn't need to decide your actions. Let people judge. Let them misunderstand. Let them form opinions. And then, let you keep going. Keep writing. Keep showing up. Keep healing. Keep creating. Keep speaking. Because your life is not a court case, and you are not required to present evidence for who you are becoming. Mel ends this chapter with a bold and beautiful challenge. Start living like judgment doesn't matter. Start choosing based on what you know, not what they might say. That's the kind of freedom that changes lives. So the next time you feel that sting, the judgment, the comment, the side eye, pause, smile, and say, let them judge me. Let me rise anyway. Chapter 18. Let me live my life after all the lessons, all the release, all the let-thems. Mel Robbins brings us here. To the final and most important shift of all, let me live my life. You've learned how to let them talk. Let them walk away. Let them not understand you. Let them judge. Let them stay stuck. Let them feel how they feel. Now, the spotlight turns fully inward. It's your time. Your turn. Your chapter. Because letting them was never the goal. It was the gateway. The goal? To fully reclaim yourself. Mel opens this chapter with this truth. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your life. You owe yourself the chance to fully live. And that right there is what this chapter is all about. It's about stepping out of the shadows of people-pleasing, self-abandonment, over-explaining, over-apologizing, and stepping into your own alignment. It's about living boldly, even if people don't get it. It's about trusting yourself, even when you've failed before. It's about starting again, this time for you. Mel shares that for years she was living for other people, for appearances, for validation, for expectations, for roles, mother, wife, daughter, professional, perfectionist. And underneath it all, she was exhausted. But when she finally started saying, let me, everything shifted. Let me write. Let me speak. Let me start. Let me stop pretending. Let me show up scared but real. Let me trust my own instincts. That's when her life stopped being about survival and became about creation. Mel tells the story of a turning point, a moment in her kitchen when she caught herself planning her day around everyone else's needs. The carpool, the emails, the chores, the favors. She asked herself, when do I get to live my life? Not just exist, not just perform, not just react, but actually live, on her terms. That's when Let Me Live My Life was born. She makes it clear, this isn't about selfishness, it's about alignment. When you stop contorting yourself for others, you become more present, more honest, more available. For yourself and the people who actually love you for you. Let's explore what this looks like in everyday life. 1. Let me take up space. Stop apologizing for your voice, your opinions, your dreams, your joy. You don't have to be quieter, smaller, or less intense to be accepted. Mel says, let me take up space, let me share my ideas. Let me be big. Because shrinking doesn't make you safe. It just makes you resentful. 2. Let me rest without guilt. You don't need to earn rest. You don't have to prove how exhausted you are to deserve a break. You are allowed to do nothing and still be worthy. Let them think you're lazy. Let them call it selfish. Let you rest. 3. Let me make choices that others don't understand. You want to leave the job. Break up. Move. Start over. Everyone's confused. Let them be. You are the only one who has to live with the consequences of your choices. So make choices that honor your truth, not their comfort. 4. Let me stop waiting. Waiting for permission. For the timing to be right. For someone to say, oh, now you're ready. Mel says there is no right time, only right now. Let me start the business. Write the book. Take the class. Speak up. You don't need another sign. You need a decision. 5. Let me forgive myself. For the years you played small, for the relationships you stayed in too long, for the boundaries you didn't set, for the voice you silenced. Let them hold the old version of you. Let you release her with love. Mel reminds us that self-forgiveness is the key to self-trust. You can't step fully into your power if you're still punishing yourself for the past. Let it go. Let it be a chapter, not your whole story. Mel also offers a vision practice, something powerful to do when you're ready to embody this chapter. Visualize the version of you who is fully living your life, not one day, not later, not if, when, but now. What do you look like when you trust yourself completely? How do you walk, speak, create, rest, love, lead? What are you no longer doing? Who are you no longer explaining yourself to? Write it down, claim it, then start making decisions from that version of you. This chapter and the book ends with Mel's most important reminder. You've spent enough time trying to be who others needed. It's time to be who you need. Let them go. Let you rise. You don't need to control them. You don't need to change them. You don't need to explain yourself anymore. Let them. Let you. Let life begin again. And now, let yourself live your life, fully, honestly, and unapologetically. Thank you for joining me on this transformative journey through the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. I hope this audiobook-style summary has inspired you to release what no longer serves you and reclaim your peace, power, and purpose.